So much.
Hey everyone, happy holidays. It's David, and we're here for a holiday chat with Gerri. How are you today?
I'm fine, David. How are you?
I'm great. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I'm recently widowed in the last 18 months, and me and my husband were in business together for like 30 years. And but it was like a hardcore technology based business. And I was more like administrative, sales, all that kind of stuff, back end, support. And he was the technical one. So I couldn't continue on with that business. But since it was so built on his core strengths, it wasn't like a business I could sell because in a way he was the business, right? So
Yeah.
at any rate, so now I'm looking for a business to procure that I can then run and have for income. And I looked at a few different businesses, and the one that I'm kind of focused on right now is a bakery business. It has 3 retail locations and one um, central hub where all the baking is done, and then they ship their baked goods to their locations and any events they have. So uh, the numbers on this enterprise have gone down over
Well,
the
let
last.
me let me ask you a few questions here before we get into it. First of all, my condolences. Big changes for you. You said that you were working together in that business for how many years?
Probably over 30.
Over 30 years. Okay. And so it's the business, was it locally based, in the area where you live? Were you serving clients in that region, or
So we worked with some chains, and so we did work from um we had some clients that had national locations, so we did some travel and did some installations and things. We mostly service the restaurant and hospitality industry in providing all of their technology systems,
okay,
uh, computer system, and then their CCTV, their POS, their music, video, whatever they needed.
okay. And is there are there reasons why you want to stay in that geography? Family, friends, etc., that are keeping you there now?
Yeah, I'm staying geographically located because my son lives not too far from me. My daughter's with me, right? One of my daughters is with me right now. My other daughter is a tax attorney and she lives in Chicago. So but I don't she may or may not stay there. And so I'm trying to stay here to be by my kids.
Okay. And uh, at what point did you decide that you wanted to acquire a business?
Okay, you froze.
Sorry, am I back? Oh, am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay, sorry. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to buy a business?
So uh I looked at trying to find a good position and I didn't like any of the opportunities presented. I looked at starting a business from scratch, but then that's you don't know how well it's going to do. There's a lot of startup costs. You could go months
Hmm.
without any income or revenue. So then I thought, why don't I take a business that's doing okay, or that maybe I can come in with my marketing skills, or maybe just sometimes just a fresh approach or fresh eyes. Maybe I could look at it and find different income opportunities within the structure of this existing business where I could expand in an area that the current operators, didn't think of. I don't know. I think that
Okay.
that's a safer bet for me. I'm going to be 60 this coming year, and I just think that's something that's already got some momentum, You know what I mean? So I can overcome the inertia of a fresh startup, and I would have some momentum built up and some
Hmm.
income flow from the beginning.
So you mentioned that you've found a bakery type of business that you want to discuss with me. Did you create sort of an outline or a wish list and go looking for a business, or how did you stumble upon this one? Was it, can you tell me that story?
Yeah, so I was looking at a number of businesses and some like, auto repair business. I don't really have a lot of auto finesse
Hmm.
or knowledge. Um, Plumbing supply business. Okay, I don't know much about, well, that was I think it was appliance repair business. I don't have the knowledge. So I'm good with people. I'm good communicator. I'm good at retail. I understand how it works. And
Hmm.
so I feel more comfortable in that arena. I was looking for a laundromat, but they seem to sell within about 2.5 seconds for way over asking price in my area. So, it
Okay.
seems everybody wants a laundromat. So, um, I looked at there's a little general store up in a little touristy area, and I looked into that, but I think their whole product mix no longer represents or is as desirable to the demographic of who goes up there has kind of changed, and I don't think they're catering to the new demographic. I think they're catering to the demographic from 30 to 40 years ago. So I'd have
Okay.
to do a product update, and that could be expensive. And then it's also kind of like a tourist place, so it's more seasonal, right? So they're going to do most of their business in the summer because it's near a river, and so a lot of people like to go by the river, but in the winter it's not particularly, and then the area it's in, there's only 4,000 residents that live
Mm.
there, so you're not going to really thrive with only 4,000 residents. So there's that. And so this business has some diversity. It's got multiple locations. There are good locations in thriving communities that have a lot of one percenters. It's they have kind of a niche clientele, and they can do things like weddings and events. They have, corporate gifts ready to go, so they have some nice things in place. And I believe it was founded in 2008,
Okay.
so it's
And
established.
and you found it was advertised for sale on a website, was it?
Yeah, biz buy sell.
Okay. So how far into it have you looked? Have you met with the seller yet?
No, I've been talking with their broker. I signed the NDA. I received some information. I'm still waiting on more information.
Hmm.
Their numbers over the last couple years have dropped. Um, Year to date is only up till the 31st of September. So, I think they do a little holiday business, so it may get up a little more, but it's the numbers over last year. Most likely they'll finish this year and it'll be down over 300,000. So my question to them is, okay, what's going on in this business that your numbers have depreciated by like, 10%?
So okay, so they did about 3 million in
Well,
2022.
it's a little more than 10%. They did they did in 2020 they did 2.3 mil. They did in 2021 they did 2.4, and now in 2022 they did 2.289, and now year to date for 2023 it's 1.5.
For 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, to me, that rather looks kind of flat. I mean, to have an oscillation of a couple hundred grand on a business this size, sort of up and down, and you only have back to 2020, do you?
Yeah, that's the only numbers I have. I'm waiting on
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's not great. It's not consistent year over year growth every year.
Mm.
Um, but if you had more years going back, in time, you would probably, see that kind of up and down bumpiness. And what do they say about the profitability
Well, their
or the
numbers, first
earnings?
of all, start with 2020, and that was a pandemic year where our entire state's shut down. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sorry, what was your question, dear?
Well, about the earnings for those same periods.
Um, Net income before taxes is showing in the negative for the last 2 years. It's showing an SDE of um like in 2020 SDE was 309,000, and in 2022 SDE was 79,437. They also have um auto expense for owner's benefit of about 17,000 a year. And so this year they're taking 79,136.
So that 79,000 SDE in 2022 includes that $17,000 of automobile add back.
No, that's in addition.
Oh, okay. So we've got the sales are falling a little bit, but the SDE is falling dramatically. Um,
Yeah.
can you see any level of detail about cost of goods sold? Because I know the price of things like flour and other food-based commodities has gone up. I'm just wondering if their costs are increasing faster than they can raise their prices.
So they have first of all, the asking price of the business is 575.
Mhm.
And I know that part of it is a 500K SBA, which is assumable at 3.25%. Um, Year to date, I only have the year to date cost of goods sold for this year. And that's at I'm trying to see if I have is 624.80, and the remaining overhead, they put other overhead separately at 872,031, and rent at 9% of gross sales. So they have a separate line item for rent.
And the cost of goods sold, is that, do you know what's in there? Is it just labor or is it just the sort of the purchases to create the baked goods?
I believe cost of goods sold is, I don't really know.
Yeah. Okay.
But down
So
down on the cash flow analysis, it has operating expenses, net income before taxes, plus depreciation, plus amortization, plus interest on loans, plus officer salary. Oh, it does have a owner's officer salary of 129. Okay, on top of that. And then it has payroll taxes.
what year are you talking about with the officer's salary of 129?
They say 2023.
Oh, okay.
And
So
that's
is there an SDE number there for 2023 yet? Did they calculate that for you?
they did calculate it SD at 79,136, and that's part of the um and that's year to date to September 30th of this year. So
Okay.
the
So
number could fluctuate because the year is not over.
yeah. So if that is accurate, if the owner has taken over 120,000 out, but the SDE is only 79, it means that they're going to end up with a negative net income again in 2023. So you like baking? Like, do you like this industry? I
Um,
guess let's before I ask that, what how would you categorize their product? Is it sort of a general everyday kind of bakery, or do they have some kind of are they in like a niche like artisan breads or something of that nature?
Predominantly cakes
Okay.
and macaroons, like just mostly cookies and cakes they
Hmm.
excel at. And the owner who started it um won like a TV baking competition. and they've got cupcakes too. So cakes, cupcakes, and macaroons. And they're in really, the locations are in really primo locations. So I have to dig a little deeper and assess for myself, but also ask, the owner and stuff, like, why do you think sales are lagging, or why do you think there's a decrease in profitability um, this year as opposed to what the business did in previous years? So there's still digging I have to do, and I'm still waiting on more documentation. So I'm just
Mm.
working off the one sheet I have, and then they just sent me their SBA loan docs, so I can look at the terms. But I mean, it's good terms. It's assumable, and it's at 3.25% for 25 years. So the loan payments are only 2,500 a month, and they're included in the overhead. So
So that's the COVID related loan that they got,
yeah, it was yeah,
the
exactly.
EIDL, I think they're called.
I'm not positive that that's the language used on the loan documents, but yeah, it was taken in 2021. So
Okay. So basically they want to give this business to someone who's willing to take over that debt.
yeah. Well, they want 575, so they want that, and they want 75,000.
Okay. So
But then
I'll
in
tell
that
you this.
scenario, they in that scenario, by the way, then there's no seller financing figured in this, and they can walk away. So if things go south and things aren't right, I would in that setup, in that scenario, I'd have no recourse.
Yeah. Well, I think that we already know that things aren't going quite right. Like that the the rent seems right, 9% of sales, right? So the occupancy costs seem to be in line. Now, you said there's multiple locations, so we don't know. Perhaps there's one of those locations that isn't doing very well at all. Like it could be. Like on average, they appear to be doing okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they're putting $2 million a year through that place. And so you don't ring up, $170,000 every month in sales if you're not delivering a product that people like, right? So they're making something that people want. The the real question is what is the thing that is not going right in that business? Because they should be, you know, having an SDE of like, 200 grand, not 79. So somewhere in there, there's some kind of inefficiency. Um, and so the the question in my mind is if you can take over a business basically by assuming a note and putting a little bit of money down, and that note is over a really long period of time with a really low interest rate, then the acquisition part of it, that's kind of a no-brainer. That's easy. The part that I would want to be really certain of is, do you have the skills to do the analysis and to figure out what is wrong in the business and how to fix it? Because it's broken right now. It
Mhm.
doesn't earn enough money for the amount of revenue that's there.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to do a little more research into it, but it really doesn't sound like a bad opportunity. And I'm good with managing people, and uh I could even do outside sales if we need to bring in, you know what I mean? Like, those are my skills. So I can do those
Hmm.
kinds of things. So I think what I just need to do more is maybe assess uh what I think is wrong, and hope I'm intuitively and objectively on target, and then determine whether or not I think I have the skill sets to do the turnaround.
Yeah.
But
I
it's not like totally tanking, but
in my experience, um, in businesses like this, and I don't know this business, right? But in my experience in businesses like this, where the problem may lie in not having a precise understanding of the inputs going into the different product lines. So you said they make cakes, they do cookies, they've got a couple of different product lines.
Mhm.
And if they're not adequately understanding the labor and materials that go into each one of those things they produce, they could have a product line that they're not making money on, and they may not even know it. You know, like if one variety of cookie is taking twice as long to prepare, but they're not adequately able to get a high enough price to compensate for the extra labor that goes into them, they might be losing money on those particular cookies, right?
Right.
And not even aware. And so, um, have you your experience is in you know, general business experience. Obviously you've been in business for 30 years. You clearly were running a profitable business because you had to open that long, right? And it supported your family the whole way through, and that's the only thing that you and your husband were doing all those years.
Yes.
So, um, I guess the thing that I would probably want you to do next would be to meet the seller, talk with them about how they run the business, see if you can detect any kind of clues that might lead you to have thoughts about how they are currently managing this, and expense tracking and labor tracking. Restaurants are bad for this too, not understanding what costs go into different meals, or they'll use theoretical, like they'll say, oh, this is what these different elements of this particular dish cost, so here's what I can charge. And then meanwhile, you know, the price of chicken's going up and down, and they don't actually track it afterwards to make sure that they really are getting the margin they thought. And I know the flour, for example, famously went way up in price there over the course of the pandemic years. So I would be asking questions about their cost tracking, how often they reconcile their commodity prices and with the prices that they're charging. You know, and be prepared for them not to really have much of an understanding of what you're talking about, because I think you identified, like, a lot of the times these businesses are started by people that are really good at the craft, and maybe not so great at management. But I would go and I would have a conversation with them. I would also see if you can find some kind of cake bakery consultant, someone that you know you want to be able to know before you get into this deal that there is a resource out there, someone who's a real specialist in this particular kind of industry that you can call upon if you need help to do some kind of analysis or evaluation as you're going through the business. Because there are so many independently owned bakeries out there that there's certainly um, some specialists out there somewhere that you can probably find on the internet.
Okay, that's a great idea. That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
See what they,
Um, have you gone and visited their retail locations? Have you done a secret shopper visit?
oh, I'm doing that on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I only just
And
started getting this information on Friday.
did you hear about this business before you found it for sale?
No, I found it for sale. It was one of, I'm going to say, 5 businesses I was looking at. And, some of the businesses seem to have more struggles than I thought I could address. And so I'm just looking for,
Sorry, there was a little hiccup there. I missed what you said.
I just, of all the businesses I've been looking at, this one seems to be the most tenable. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, people are buying the product, some of the questions I have is like, are these the standard flavors you had? How many years have you had these flavors? Maybe people are just like, they've tried everything. And so when they have a taste for that, they'll go to you, but maybe you got to mix it up a little bit more. Or maybe they've been changing the flavors and maybe they're lagging they don't like, because they have the production facility. Their wholesale business is only 3%. So
Yeah.
there's room for expansion there and merchandise. So they must have some merchandise in the store, but it only accounts for 1%. So is that an opportunity to boost? And then it says other 3%. And so I don't know what other is, but so mostly it's baked goods and most of the sales are at retail.
Yeah. I the fact that sales aren't going up consistently year over year is an issue. Um, but I would say that the real problem in this business has got something to do with the way it's being managed. Because on $2 million of revenue, they should be making a lot more money than they are. And so, you know, with a slight decrease from 2021 to 2022 of 2.4 million down to, a little under 2.3, that's $100,000 less in the front door. Um, and so what I would be cautious of is they have not been able to react to the decline in sales by cutting anything else. And so to me, that means that they don't have some kind of active information feedback in the business, right? Like
Okay, you froze.
if they did have, a better active information feedback, then they would realize, hey, our labor now is getting too high, right? Or we need to try to reduce our labor costs, or maybe cut back some hours, or maybe the next time somebody leaves, we replace them with a part timer or something like that. And so those would be the kinds of topics I would want to talk with the seller about. Is how do you track the cost of things? How do you know if you are spending too much on labor? How often are you, looking at your P&L to make sure things, at what point in the month is your P&L reconciled with your bank statement? You want to find out if they're actually using their financial information to run the business, or if it's an afterthought for them,
Okay, you froze again.
right? Oh, sorry. I'm not sure. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You froze.
Oh, am I
Sorry.
back now?
Yeah, you're back now, but I missed that last
Okay.
snippet of what you said.
So what I was saying is that you want to ask them about when each month their bank statements are reconciled so they can have an up-to-date P&L. You want to probe to learn whether or not they're actually using their accounting information in order to run the business and make financial decisions or not.
Okay.
You want to ask
They
questions like,
also moved out of state. So I think they used to be more hands-on in the business. So they're trying to manage it remotely from another state at this point in time. So that
yeah,
may have something to do with it.
well, their system for managing labor may have simply been that if they were around all the time and realized, hey, we can let some people go home early today, or we have too many people, you know, just by observing, that could have been their system. That's how most small businesses are run. The owners are in the business and they watch what's going on and they make decisions.
Mhm.
If they left and are trying to run it from another place and they're no longer present and they never put a system in place to actually measure any of this stuff, that would certainly be a contributing factor. Do you know when they moved?
No, I think it was
No.
only
Well,
the last year or two though, and that's when the numbers started to it could correlate. I'm not positive, but that is something that I'm thinking of, you know.
yeah. They if they're not present and they're not tracking their numbers tightly enough, what ends up happening is they create opportunities too for employees to steal. And theft in a business like this can take one of several forms. It can be employees taking raw materials. So someone takes a bag of sugar. It can be employees sitting around not working when they're supposed to be, which is, stealing wages, basically. And it can also be the theft of product that is intended to be sold. So it can take a lot of different forms. But um, yeah, I were there any other businesses that you wanted to discuss today, or just this one?
Well, there was the general store. They want 390K. The it's two owners that own it, and the SDE is about 79,000, and they want 390 for the business. And it's a cute little shop. It's been in business for 72 years. It started in like, the late 1940s. And
Mhm.
so I was looking at that, and
Is
what
the
else?
asking price inclusive of the normal inventory?
I believe it's inclusive of the normal inventory. And they said that their inventory is like 100,000,
Okay.
and the goodwill.
So yeah, um, oh, before I forget, with the bakery, you want to ask if they have any kind of customer loyalty program or any kind of record of who their customers are.
Right? I don't know if they have a mailing list. I don't know. They do have a following on Facebook. They have 4.9 regarded. Are you there? Did I lose you
Yeah,
again?
sorry about the internet. I'm not sure what's
Okay.
going on today. It's been
Me
working fine
neither.
all day, and now it's giving us some hiccups.
Yeah.
Um,
So that they have good Yelp reviews. They have a following on Facebook. They're on Instagram. So there's some good things there. There's some good things. Um, but yeah, you're right. I don't know if they have a mailing list. I don't know how much of the business it says, most of their business is at retail, but how much of it is events or weddings or things like that where they're delivering to clients, and how much of it is people just walking in the door. That I don't know.
yeah. The When it comes to events and things like that, the other thing too that you want to ask about is there can sometimes be hidden or camouflaged customer concentration. So, for example, they might have 1,000 different weddings they do every year, but there might be five wedding planners bringing 40% of that, right?
Right,
While the customers are not the wedding planners are certainly, a kind of customer concentration because without those referrals, there's going to be a big loss of wedding customers, right? And
right.
so that's something you want to explore as well. With the retail store, an SDE of under $100,000, um, seller's discretionary earnings is the amount of money available to an owner operator that works full time. So what that would indicate would be that in order for you to get that $80,000, you would need to work in there full time. That's basically buying a job. And did you say it's quite a ways from your house?
No, I'm going to be moving in that area. I'm just waiting for my daughter to graduate, so I'll have to commute a little bit, for 1 year. And then I would move to be close to the business. Obviously, I'm not gonna, tie myself up long distance, but they did have a line item on top of SDE for owner officer salary, and that amount is at 129, 178. So, but this is what I would do with my time daily. Do you know what I mean? I plan on working the business.
Hmm. So it's interesting to me that they're saying SDE is one number and then there's an owner salary of another number because um,
I don't understand why they're on two separate lines. Like
yeah,
that one is taken as payroll and the other is like kind of like a profit share, or you know what I mean? Like shareholder disbursement, like the SDE is a shareholder disbursement on top of, you know,
yeah,
salary.
but that's not SDE. That's not the definition of it. So so what that does then is it makes me question the experience and knowledge of the broker,
Mhm.
which just means that you have to be extra careful when you're going through everything to make sure that you understand what is happening in the business. You can't really rely upon things that are being presented to you by that broker.
Right. And yeah, and something's got to be off, because on the very bottom it says profit margin, right? And so last year at 2.289 million, it says 3.47% profit margin. But this year, where the year to date is only to the 30th of September, and it's 1.5, it says that the profit margin, so now the numbers are significantly lower, but it says the profit margin is 5.25%. Like how do they arrive at that number? Do you know what I mean? I I don't I can't like make that math work in my head.
Is it, so you said you've spoken with the broker. Do you know anything about the broker? Like how long they've been a broker or how many businesses they've sold or anything like that?
No, but they work for a lot of the businesses in this area that no, I don't know much about the business broker, but the brokerage he works for has a significant amount of the listings available in the Bay Area. So,
Okay. Um, yeah, I would just you're going to have to verify everything that they tell you because what we've already uncovered just from the presentation is that there's maybe a lack of understanding happening there about what it is that they're putting forth.
mhm.
Um, you have a real advantage because you've been in business for a long time, and over people who maybe have never been in business. And so I have every confidence that you'll be able to, you won't be as easily fooled by something that is not quite right.
No, well, I have like a lot of questions at this point, but I might at some point procure your services to help me, when I really have and first of all, I don't have all the information that
Yeah.
either of us would need to make a determination. But like what you said, bring in a bakery consultant to help you figure out what's wrong with the business so you can figure out how to fix it. Yeah, I love that idea. I'm all about having the right people. That's why I worked so well with my husband. I didn't have to worry about the technology. He was like a genius at it. He was so good. And so, you know what I mean? Like he excelled at what he did and almost like he was the baker, right? He knew how to bake and I knew how to do all the rest of it. So we worked good together. And so I do like to bake. I don't know that I want to, bake commercially, but they seem to have staff in place to do that. And that's, I think I'd leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. Well, you know, the capacity of the bakery would be something interesting to explore. Is there the ability to make more product? And if there is there an opportunity to expand wholesale activity? Because wholesale is a really, it's less profitable, but you produce the stuff, you deliver it to other people, and other people take care of selling it, right?
Right.
And if you've got the capacity and you can do that and add to the volume, that can also help with your overhead, right? Because then you start to spread the overhead across more units that are produced every month. Um, so in the retail store, let's flip back to that one. It appears that the actual money that the owner is earning is like 129 plus 80. Is that what it appears?
That's what it appears. Yeah, because it has a line for salary and then it has SD at the bottom. So I'm like, okay. And then it also has like a $16,000 annual car allowance. So there's that.
So because if the actual owner's earnings, the actual SDE of the business is, 220 grand or whatever, then, somewhere in the mid 400s as a total price kind of makes sense. You said they're asking over 500.
They're just trying to get out of it with the zero net according to the broker. But like I said, I haven't talked to the owners yet. So they want 575 because they say that that's somebody
So,
could have seen their
you're
SPF.
talking about are you talking about the bakery or the retail store?
Well, the bakery.
The bakery. Okay. So the 129 owner salary and then the SDE of 79, is that the bakery or the retail store?
Bakery.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So if the owner is taking home that salary and there's those additional earnings, I think the price is just a little bit high, but given the fact that you can assume a 20-year loan at a low interest rate, it may not matter to overpay a little bit for it. Yeah. You got
So
to do
you
due diligence on this one though, because as you said, there's no offsettable seller note in this case. The
525 would be fair.
Yeah, if they're really taking home, 230 grand or something, sure.
Yeah, I want to be
I
fair to
mean,
them, but I want to be fair to me
the the
too.
the cost of building this business, of setting up 3 retail locations, getting enough customers to bring $2 million through the door. I mean, you wouldn't be able to recreate this business for that amount of money.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, well, it's not as bad a thing. There's just like unknowns that need to be known and clarifications that need to occur. But I think there's a good possibility that there's room for improvement. And like you said, I could call in a bakery expert and get some help so that going in, I have greater vision of what needs to happen in order to turn it around. So, that was a
Yeah.
great idea. Thank you, David.
I've seen this kind of thing before more frequently in the restaurant trade where um, people have a lot of revenue coming in the front door, but they don't have any kind of handle on the expenses. And with restaurants, it comes down to not understanding costs and portion control. You know, somebody's putting fries on a plate, but nobody's measuring, right? And
Right.
and the costs get out of line because nobody's paying attention. But when you introduce a special scoop that this is the amount of fries that go with the hamburger, for example, then all of a sudden you're serving 4 or 5 more people every hour with the same bag of fries or whatever, and that really starts to add up, and you start to get profit down on the bottom again. And my suspicion is that those kinds of issues are existing within this business. um, you're just going to have to figure out or get the help of someone who already knows how to calculate those so that you stop missing the profit. Because with $2 million going through the business, that with $2 million going through the business, if the owner is not present and is taking a salary of 129, and then there's a further distribution of another 80, then the business sounds like it's performing more in line with what it should be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not
So
bad. It's not
I would bring that document you have to the meeting with the seller and just verify with the broker there this is the case, that there's 129 plus 80. Because if the owner's salary is 129 but the SDE really is 80, that means the owner's taking $50,000 out more than the profit that the business is earning.
right. Right.
Which would mean that if maybe there's money in the bank, it's being drained, or the payables are growing, right? Or
Oh,
maybe exactly. So just the way that they're using the terms and the way they're presenting it just makes me very cautious about the expertise of the broker.
right. Right. Yeah. Huh. It's a lot to process. It's a, lot to look at.
And and that's pretty common. I see a lot of really terrible presentations that people send in for my help with. Um, there's not a lot of barriers to entry into the industry. So
So it's good. There's a good chance that this broker isn't very um practiced at this, and that's why some of the information is presented in such a way.
yeah, I mean, some general advice I give to people about working with business brokers is when you first meet a business broker, ask them about it. Say, hey, business brokers, that's pretty interesting. How long have you done that? How many? Yeah. Oh, really? How many businesses have you sold for other people? Do you have to do a lot of training to get into that? And just let them talk, right? And then you kind of get an idea of if they say, yeah, I've been doing this for 25 years and I go to conference every year, and then you can understand they're more experienced than someone who just got into it. Um, Usually what happens is brokers will try to get the biggest SDE number they can justify. And so that owner's wage of 129 would certainly be added back to get to that SDE number. And so,
right? Because if you're going to sell it based on a variable of the SDE, you'd want the SDE to look as happy as possible, because
yeah,
that's what the asking price is going to be validated by. But yeah, I was surprised to see it's on two different lines, but
yeah.
I'll have to ask about it. And I don't know how the profit margin goes up when the business numbers have gone down.
Well,
That's
and it,
that's some voodoo
yeah,
economics right there.
I, and don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think that they're dumb questions, right? Just say, I'm new to this. I've never done this before. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Because I also hear a lot of people using terms, and sometimes two different people will use the same term meaning two different things. And so don't be afraid just to slow down and get people to stop and explain things. Um, you might uncover some interesting information. And, so much of this is about careful listening, right? Um, the broker or the seller might say something during the meeting that could lead you down a whole new path of investigation and questions that can reveal either a real opportunity or some other, unseen danger that is really bad. Um, so it's really a game of listening.
Okay, very good. Well, I feel better about this actually than I did before I called you. So that's good. And now
All
you've
right.
put me on track to just get more professional help to make sure that I'm making the right decisions, which is smart. And that's this could be a good thing for me. Thank you.
Awesome, Gerri. Well, good luck. Let me know how it goes. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, David, and Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas. Bye bye.